Hi, I'm Marina from Therapeutic. Making a microblading video today. And it's not a video to teach you how to do microblading. It's not a tutorial at all. It's just a very laid back video to show you everything that is involved when we do a microblading treatment. Any questions or comments, feel free to add them, ask me. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Yeah, I mean, many people decide to have this treatment done. Some need it, some definitely don't need it. There's a lot of do's and don'ts. There's a lot of things that we need to discuss. There's a whole lot of different ways that people do microblading these days. It's really taken off in the last few years, and there are so many different options in pigments and blades, and we're just discussing all of these little bits today. But feel free to add your comments and tell us what you think. Hi, so we're about to start our microblading procedure. This is Vicky.
Hi.
Vicky's my model today. Vicky's had microblading done before by my good self. She was brave enough to be my model when I did my assessment a couple of years ago. So Vicky's brows, if we have a quick look at them, they still have a little bit of microblading fade left. However, they're really faded, and today we're just going to concentrate on going over those strokes and filling them in. Vicky had a few patches when we first started. We have filled it in nicely. We've given her a nice solid darker brow, something that she's always wanted. So we're about to start the numbing process. I'm going to use a 5% lidocaine cream on Vicky. She has had this procedure done before, so she does know what to expect. However, I've had to do a full consultation and I've redone all the patch testing. We're just cleaning the area to get rid of any makeup, residue of any skin products that might stop the pigment from penetrating into the skin, and any residue of anything. So I'm going to apply this 5% lidocaine numbing cream, and I'm going to apply copious amounts of it in the surrounding areas. Before Vicky came for her microblading, I went ahead and did a patch test behind her ear. The patch test you always have to leave on for 24 to 48 hours, but it's always good to have a consultation about a week before you come for your microblading, just so that we can assess and see if there's anything that we can change or add. You know, if you need to see a doctor about any medication that you take or anything, then we always have to make sure that there's enough time so that we can do this. So as you can see, I've put a lot of numbing cream on. I do, however, have to cover this numbing cream. The numbing cream always needs to be under a little bit of wrap because that makes it activate and it keeps it from drying out. Because if it dries out, it's just going to be crusty and horrible. So we just wrap it quite tight. Anything works. You can even use a little bit of cling film if that's all you've got. This has to stay on for a good half an hour now. And while this is on, this is a really good time for you to have a really nice chat with your client about the procedure, how long it's going to take. We can look at pigment. I've left enough space on the forehead area here to check for pigment, so that we can match exactly Vicky's hair colour, her new hair colour by the way, her hair colour to her brows. I tend to go with brow colour a lot and skin tone. We definitely look at the skin tone. The skin tone makes all the difference. And the other really important thing is skin type. You know, whether you have, what skin type do you have, Vicky?
That combination.
Combination, slightly sensitive here, maybe a little bit of dehydration and dryness, but we won't go into that today.
Does the cream always work?
The numbing cream usually works on everybody. I've had 1 or 2 incidents where the numbing cream didn't work very well and then I've had to reapply. There are so many different techniques out there. There are people that don't apply numbing cream before their first passes, and there are others that apply constantly throughout. I find I apply in the beginning. I give the client a good 30 minutes to 45 minutes for the cream to activate, to work. I can see where it's been on the skin. I then start my microblading procedure, and throughout I continuously ask my client about any pain. The pain level should be on a scale from 1 to 10. You should probably be about a 4. If it's more, then I apply more numbing cream.
Okay. Can you go over other people's work when they've had the big block tattoos before, or when they haven't been happy with what they've had?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, because I get a lot of people that come in with a really, really horrible faded block tattoo. Basically, with machine tattoos, the machine goes really deep into sort of 7 or 8 layers of the skin, as deep as it can go into the subcutaneous layer. It's like having a tattoo done. It's permanent. You're stuck with that forever. However, microblading is a handheld thin tool. I'll show you the tools later that we use, and it's very semi-permanent. It fades a lot, it fades quite quickly. So the problem I have is going over a really deep tattoo and doing a very superficial tattoo with a microblading tool is complicated. But I have corrected brows. I've done a lot of correction work. Sometimes people want a bit of a fade, so they leave their eyebrows for a couple of years to fade out completely. But I have to say, if you've had a block tattoo with a machine, very, very rare that it will fade completely, even if you have fading treatment.
Is there anything I should avoid before having my blading done?
That's a great question, and yes, definitely. I think that's why we definitely do a full consultation beforehand, just so that I can get a clear picture of where I am with the client. Medication is top of that list, you know, things like warfarin, anything that's a blood thinner. Don't take ibuprofen or aspirin or anything that thins the blood, because we don't want to create any bleeding while we're doing the treatment. Also, it can stop you from healing. It can cause a little bit of bruising, so that's really, really important. But I talk all my clients through that anyway before they come. Other than that, if you've had Botox or fillers or injectables or anything like that, you know, then we have to have a little bit of time for them to settle into the skin. Also, a really important thing that I always mention to everyone is if you've had any chemical peels done, or you've had any invasive skin treatment, or any medication like Accutane or retinols, then we do need to make a note of these. You do need to give your skin time to heal. There's a massive healing process after Accutane and things like that. So it's always important to give me as much information as you can on your consultation sheet, so we can investigate and look at everything and make sure that your skin and your health is up to scratch before we start microblading. So we're just testing pigment. I found a colour for you, Vicky. I think we're just going to go with a nice warm brown. I've looked at your skin tone. I like a warm colour on you, and you said you prefer a little bit of a warm colour. Looked at your brow colour, looked at your hair colour, and I'm super happy with that. I do mix colours sometimes. I don't always just go for one, but yes, I blend this in. Sometimes really, really good idea to leave the pigment on the skin for 5 minutes, because your skin temperature changes, and sometimes that changes the pigment too. So good to see. So we'll do that for now.
So who do you recommend to have microblading, and how do you decide what shape to do?
So this is, again, a really good question. Basically, a lot of people ask me about microblading, and then I say to them, come in, have a consultation, and we talk it through thoroughly. I don't just say yes to everybody. You have to have a good reason. Either your brows have been overplaqued, they're patchy, you've got alopecia, some people who have had chemotherapy, their brows don't grow back again. We create a nice shape of brow for them. So there's a lot of different reasons and a lot of different people that can have them. If you've got a nice, full, thick brow, microblading really isn't the thing for you. I think there's a lot of other different things that can be done before you microblade. A good old waxing session, some threading, some tinting. So microblading is definitely something that you have to think about and consider before you make the move. The other thing is the shape you asked about, Vicky. I really, really think it's up to the specific technician and brow stylist to decide on their shapes, but you always go with a person's natural facial features, the bone structure, and definitely the shape of the original brow. I can pretty much tell where the original brow used to be before people started over plucking, shaving their brows, doing all sorts of things to their brows. I sometimes struggle, like I say, with the ones with no brows. There's definitely a very, very difficult line to follow, and you've got to get them so super symmetrical. But for that, we just use measuring tools. You know, take a lot of time planning the brow. The planning of the brow is probably the most intense bit of this treatment. So Vicky's had enough time to numb up now. We've had this on for over half an hour. Can you feel the numbing, Vicky? Has it numbed? Is there any sensation on the skin? What would you say you felt during the numbing process?
Until you've actually just taken it off, I didn't know if there was actually any difference, but when you're touching it now, it almost feels like, you know, when you have pins and needles and you can't feel your fingers but you can? You know, when you touch them?
Yes.
It feels like that?
It's a bit of a weird sensation.
Yeah.
I've prepped Vicky's brow by, she tinted her brows last week, and then we have threaded them just to get a really good shape. So I'm going to look at the brow shape now. What is it that you want to achieve during this treatment, Vicky?
I don't want them to be bigger. I want them to be more full. Like last time, there's like parts on one of my eyebrows that aren't as full as the other.
Missing.
Yeah, so they're a little bit patchy. But other than the shape I like.
Okay.
It's just for them to be more full.
Perfect. So you just want to achieve a brow that when you wake up in the morning, you wake up with perfect brows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that you don't have to use too much powder or pencil or any other makeup, and you can just go out for your run, or you can just do a morning out for coffee or whatever, or go to work without
So I have my lashes on, I have my brows on, and I'm ready to go.
Perfect. So I'm going to do a quick drawing just sitting up so I can get the symmetry of your face, because nobody's face is symmetrical. There's always one brow that's higher than the other one. There's always one that's a bit more curvy than the other one. So what kind of shape do you like anyway? Do you like quite an edgy shape? Do you like the middles to be really sharp, or do you want them nice and round in the middle?
I like the middles to be sharp but not square when going off, just slightly rounded, not too harsh of a square.
Okay, that's brilliant. And this one's slightly lower than that one. Your face dips to this side a little bit. So for me to just get perfect symmetry, I'll sit you up and demonstrate how I do it. So I'll just draw a few lines that I think, and I just do this by looking at the face. I'll do the proper measurements when you're lying down, but sometimes for me it's just better to get a good idea of where the center of your face is. No one's nose is straight either. It's very difficult to get an exact measurement, but you know, you've got the tools. I also just go from the corner of the eye to see if your brow is dipping more on this one side to the other, and I just draw tiny little lines. I'll probably lose when I'm blading, but just so that I know that I've done a good job with the waxing or the threading. And then after that, we'll lie you down and we'll do proper measurements.